I'm 54, and I never thought I'd be writing something like this, especially not about my own daughter. But right now, I'm stuck between suspicion and fear, and the only thing I know for sure is that something's wrong. Deeply wrong. And no one seems to care as much as I do. 11 years ago, my daughter Anna got married to a man named Darren. She was 22, fresh out of university, head over heels. The kind of love that makes smart people ignore red flags. And trust me, there were red flags. But Anna wouldn't hear a word against him. Not from me, not from her brother, not even from her best friend who once told me Darren gave her the creeps. To everyone else, Darren was the charming type, smart, clean-cut, always smiling, but to me? Something about him always felt off. Not evil exactly, just calculated. Like every gesture was rehearsed. Like he was performing kindness rather than feeling it. I bit my tongue because Anna was happy. They moved 3 hours away and settled into a new apartment. He had a job in tech that supposedly paid well. Anna took freelance design gigs and ran a small Etsy store. They seemed content, even if I didn't see them as much as I liked. Then, one day, he disappeared. Just like that. No warning. No calls. No note. Anna showed up at our front door in the middle of the night, soaked in rain and crying so hard she couldn't speak. It took her hours to get the full story out. She said he'd gone to work and never came home. She tried his phone, nothing. Checked with his job, they said he hadn't worked there in 6 months. 6 months. Anna didn't know. She was completely blindsided. We called the police. We filed a missing persons report. Weeks passed. Then months. And the police quietly dropped it, saying he was an adult with the right to disappear. But Anna never stopped looking. She poured every penny into private investigators, background checks, internet searches. She even joined some ridiculous online sleuthing forums full of conspiracy theories and amateur hackers. But Darren was a ghost. It was like he'd never existed. Eventually, she gave up. Not publicly, of course, she kept saying she'd find him someday. But deep down, she knew. I saw it in the way she stopped smiling, the way she refused to date again, the way she started sleeping with the hallway light on. She never moved back out. She stayed with us, rebuilding piece by piece. And I kept telling myself that at least she was safe. That was 11 years ago. Until last Tuesday, when he showed up at our front door. I hadn't seen Darren since their wedding. But the second I opened the door, there he was, looking older, thinner, but unmistakably him. Same smug smirk, same cold eyes. He asked to see Anna. My blood went cold. Because Anna wasn't home. She hadn't been home for 2 days. And I was just starting to realize, she hadn't told me where she was going. I stood there, gripping the doorknob so tightly my knuckles turned white. I didn't say anything at first, just stared at him, waiting for my brain to catch up. Darren looked almost amused by my shock. Like he expected me to faint or scream. But I didn't. I just asked the first question that came to mind. Where have you been? He gave this weak little shrug and said something like, that's complicated. Complicated. 11 years gone without a trace, without a single word, while my daughter's life fell apart, and complicated was all he had to say? I asked him again, sharper this time, where is Anna? He blinked, confused. Then he said, I assumed she'd be here. That's when my stomach dropped. Because she should have been here. She told me she'd be home Monday night. She'd packed a small duffel bag Sunday morning and said she was going to visit a friend, Lauren, someone I didn't know well, just a name she'd mentioned a couple times. I didn't think much of it at the time. She'd been doing that more often lately, trying to get back out there, as she called it. She didn't usually stay away more than a night. But now it was Tuesday. No messages. No calls. And now Darren, the man who disappeared from her life over a decade ago, was suddenly back? I asked him point blank, did you see her? He shook his head. Told me he came here first. That he'd been thinking about her a lot lately and that he finally got his life sorted out and wanted to make things right. I nearly slammed the door in his face. But part of me, a very stupid part, needed answers. And the fastest way to get them was to keep him talking. So I let him in. I didn't offer him a seat. I didn't offer him coffee. I stood there in the hallway, watching him as he walked in like he owned the place. His eyes scanned the living room, the old photos on the mantel, the same way someone searches for a weak spot in a wall. I asked him again where he'd been. This time, he gave me more than a shrug. He said he left because he wasn't ready for the kind of life Anna wanted. Said he'd been running from a lot of things. He made it sound poetic, tragic even. But I wasn't interested in his sad little monologue. I asked him directly, why now? Why come back after all this time? He looked me dead in the eye and said something I'll never forget. Because she messaged me. My throat closed up. He said she found him online. That she reached out first. That she told him she'd forgiven him and wanted to talk in person. He pulled out his phone and showed me a text. It was short, just a screenshot, from someone saved as a red heart. I think I'm ready to see you. Same place, Sunday night. I asked him what same place meant. He smiled like it was a private joke and said, where we had our honeymoon. My legs nearly gave out. They honeymooned at a cheap rental cottage 2 hours away, middle of nowhere, barely on the map. No cell signal, no neighbors. Anna had said it was romantic. I always thought it sounded like the perfect place to make someone disappear. I told him to get out. He resisted. Said he wanted to wait for Anna here. I told him she was missing. That's when he stopped smiling. He asked when I last saw her. I told him. Sunday morning. I hadn't heard from her since. At first, I thought maybe she just needed space. But now I was terrified. And Darren? His face changed. Not scared. Not guilty. Just thoughtful. Like he was trying to remember something. Or cover something up. Darren didn't ask questions like a worried husband. He didn't start calling her name, rushing to his phone, or begging me to help find her. He just stood there, arms folded, like he was trying to solve a riddle in his head. Calm. Too calm. I asked him again, did he meet her on Sunday night? And he hesitated. It was only for a second, but I saw it. That flicker. That pause that says someone's editing their story mid-sentence. Then he said yes. Yes, he saw her. Said she met him at the cottage Sunday evening. They talked. She cried. He cried. They spent the night just talking about everything, their past, how things went so wrong, how much they'd changed. And in the morning, she left. Just like that. I didn't believe him. I asked him why she hadn't called me. Why she hadn't come home. Why she wasn't answering any of my texts. He said she told him she needed a few days alone. That she wanted to think things through. That didn't sound like my daughter. Anna never left me in the dark. Not since the first time Darren left. That changed her forever, made her cling harder to family, to certainty. She always checked in, always told me where she'd be. Even if she was mad. Even if we'd argued. I told Darren something wasn't right. That if she had gone to the cottage, she would have come home after. That I was calling the police. That's when things changed. He stepped toward me. Not aggressive. Just closer than I wanted him to be. He said I was overreacting. That Anna was fine. That maybe I didn't know her as well as I thought. I told him to back off. I was done playing games. I picked up the phone and started dialing non-emergency police line because at that point, I didn't even know what to report. A missing person? A suspicious visitor? Something worse? Darren didn't try to stop me. Instead, he turned around and walked right out of the house. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't wait for the cops to arrive. Just disappeared again. By the time the officer showed up, Darren was long gone. I gave them everything I could, his full name, the history, the photo I still had from their wedding day. I told them he claimed Anna had met him, that she was off thinking, but I didn't believe a word of it. They said they'd look into it, but I could tell by the tone in their voice, they thought I was just a worried mom overreacting to a grown woman not texting back. I knew better. Something was wrong. Because that night, I checked Anna's room. Her duffel bag was still missing, sure. But the second drawer of her dresser? The one where she kept her emergency folder? Empty. Passport. Birth certificate. Cash. Gone. That bag she took with her? She hadn't packed for a weekend. She'd packed to disappear. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone, willing it to buzz, hoping to see Anna's name light up the screen. Even a one-word message would have been enough. Anything to prove she was still out there, still safe. But nothing came. Around 3 a.m., I opened her laptop. I'd never done that before. I respected her privacy. But something about that empty drawer told me this wasn't just a spontaneous getaway. Something was off. She wouldn't have left without telling me unless she thought I'd try to stop her. Or unless she knew I should try. The laptop wasn't password protected. And what I found, it felt like peeling back skin. Anna had created a folder on her desktop called Deep Notes. I almost didn't open it, thinking it was old memories she hadn't deleted. But inside were screenshots, journal entries, and saved PDFs, all dated within the last 3 months. She'd been tracking Darren. 4 months. Bank statements. Public records. A car rental receipt under a fake name, but same birth date. Surveillance photos from someone she'd apparently paid. Notes about his previous aliases, jobs he might have held, cities he'd lived in. She had it all. And most chilling of all? A list titled, "Questions to Ask If I Ever See Him Again." The list was brutal. She wasn't planning some happy reunion. She wanted answers. Real ones. Why did you lie about your job? Where did you go after that last paycheck? Who is Marla R., and why did you transfer $12,000 to her? Did you ever plan to come back, or were you just killing time with me? What did you do with the money? My hands shook reading it. Anna hadn't told me any of this. Not the investigation. Not the suspicion. Not the obsession that had clearly taken over her life these past few months. She didn't want to just find Darren. She wanted to unmask him. I kept digging. There was one more thing, an email draft. Unsaved, unfinished, but still in the autosave folder. It was addressed to someone named Lauren. The same friend she said she was visiting. But the email wasn't friendly. It started with, "I know you don't want to be involved, but I can't do this without your help. He trusts you. I need you to text him Sunday at 4 p.m. and say the meeting's cancelled. That'll give me time to get there first." It ended mid-sentence. Like she'd been interrupted. I copied every file onto a flash drive and called the police again. I told them she wasn't just missing, she'd been investigating a man with a history of fraud. Someone she believed had stolen from her. Someone who, last I saw, had walked into my house like he owned it. They said they'd take it under advisement. Which is code for, "We don't believe you yet." I'm telling you, I felt like I was screaming into the wind. Until the next morning, when I called the number listed under Lauren in Anna's phone. And the voice that answered? Was not a woman. The voice on the other end of the line was male. Calm. Unfazed. I asked, cautiously, "Is this Lauren's number?" A short pause. Then he said, "Depends. Who's asking?" My blood turned cold. I told him I was Anna's mother. That Anna had said she was visiting someone named Lauren, and this was the number she left behind. I asked, gently, if Lauren was around. Another pause. Then he said, "No one named Lauren here." Click. He hung up. I sat frozen for a full minute, staring at my phone like it would give me another explanation. Something. Anything. But it didn't. I tried calling again. This time it went straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I couldn't. I didn't know what to say. But one thing was clear now, Anna had lied about where she was going. And she'd left me a fake name and a burner number that didn't trace back to anyone I could verify. That meant she was hiding something, or she was protecting me from something. Either way, I knew she hadn't just run away. This was calculated, planned, and that terrified me even more. I grabbed the flash drive, printed out the screenshots from her laptop, and drove straight to the police station. I refused to take another look into it. I needed them to see what I'd found. To understand that my daughter hadn't just ghosted me, she was in the middle of something dangerous. When I got there, they passed me around from one detective to another, like no one wanted to touch it. Then finally, one of them, Detective Carver, sat me down and really listened. He read through the notes, took copies of the files, and asked me 1,000 questions. How long had Darren been gone? Why did I think Anna was in danger? What proof did I have that she didn't just leave on her own? I told him everything. About the surprise visit, the creepy calmness, the email to Lauren, the missing documents from her drawer. And then I told him something I hadn't told anyone yet. That I'd found Anna's phone, tucked under her pillow. She never went anywhere without it. She had an old anxiety habit, kept her phone on her at all times. The fact that she left it behind told me two things. She didn't want to be tracked, or she wasn't the one who left. Detective Carver listened carefully. He didn't give me the concerned smile. He didn't try to placate me. He leaned back in his chair, folded his hands, and said, "This doesn't sound good." That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a case of someone being late to check in. Something had happened. He promised to open an official missing persons file, with high priority notes due to the circumstances. He also said he'd put out an alert for Darren, though without a crime on record, there wasn't much they could charge him with yet. But here's the part that truly chilled me. When I gave him Darren's last known alias, the one Anna had written in her notes, Carver went still. He typed it into his system and squinted at the screen. Then he asked me, "Did your daughter ever mention a woman named Tina Holloway?" I said no. He leaned forward, lowered his voice, and told me Tina Holloway was last seen 8 years ago. Last spotted with a man who matched Darren's old ID and used the same alias. She was never found. And now my daughter had tracked him down, and vanished too. I left the station shaking. The name Tina Holloway stuck in my brain like a splinter I couldn't dig out. 8 years ago, another woman disappeared, connected to Darren. Same alias, same ghosting pattern, same silence. And now Anna. I kept playing the timeline over in my head. Darren vanished from Anna's life 11 years ago. Tina went missing 3 years later. Now he'd resurfaced again, and Anna was gone. He had a rhythm: disappear, reappear, reset. Always with a new woman, a new name, a new life. What if this time Anna had been the one trying to flip the script? What if she had lured him out? And what if she miscalculated? By the time I got home, it was after dark. I hadn't eaten all day, but food was the last thing on my mind. I checked Anna's room again. Everything was the same. No signs of struggle. No note. Just her scent still clinging to the sheets and that one drawer, still empty. Then someone knocked on the door. I jumped so hard I nearly dropped my phone. It wasn't the police. It was a woman. Mid-40s maybe. Tired eyes, strong posture. She looked like someone who'd been through hell and walked back out. She said her name was Carmen. Said she used to be married to a man named David Royden. Said she found me because she saw my recent posts on a small missing persons forum, one I'd joined a few days earlier, desperate for someone who might have seen Anna. She didn't hesitate. Said right there, on my porch. David Royden is your Darren. Same man. Different name. I have proof. And she did. Photos. Handwritten notes. Even a fingerprint she'd matched through a friend who worked in records. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. In Carmen's photos, he looked a little younger, beard instead of clean-shaven, different haircut, but the eyes were the same. That weird vacancy masked by a smile. Her story sounded hauntingly familiar. She'd met David in 2012. Same charm. Same fast-moving relationship. He'd swept her off her feet in a matter of months, married her by the end of the year. He disappeared a year and a half later, leaving behind tens of thousands in debt and an identity trail so full of holes it was like he'd never existed at all. She never stopped trying to find him, not because she still loved him, but because she couldn't understand what had happened. It was only when she saw the name Anna Brenner on that forum, with the words missing after contact with Darren R., that the pieces clicked. She recognized his face immediately. She told me she'd been tracking him ever since he left. That she knew about at least 4 women he'd been involved with under different names. One of them, the last one before Anna, was Tina Holloway. The woman the police had just told me about. But Carmen said something the detective hadn't. Tina hadn't just gone missing. Tina had filed a restraining order 3 months before she vanished. Against David Royden. Carmen showed me the scan of the document. It was real. Dated, signed. Tina had been afraid. She told the court he'd been controlling. Possessive. That she suspected he was watching her even after they broke up. And then, nothing. No sightings. No calls. No credit card activity. Now Anna was gone too. Carmen looked me in the eye and said the words I hadn't let myself say out loud yet. He's not just a con man. I think he's a predator. And if your daughter went after him. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Carmen sat at my kitchen table like she'd been here 100 times before, like the ghosts she was carrying matched mine, and neither of us needed to pretend anymore. She opened her bag and pulled out a thin black notebook. She called it the ledger. Inside were entries. Dates, names, notes. Every woman Darren, aka David, had been involved with over the last 15 years. Some she'd found by digging through property records. Others from internet forums, rumor threads, even obituaries. Yes, obituaries. She flipped to a page near the back. And there it was, Anna Brenner. My daughter. Written in bold letters, circled in red ink. Underneath, Carmen had written, contacted him May 3rd, set meeting June 9th, possible trap? I stared at her. Trap? Carmen nodded. She'd been tracking Darren for over a decade. Always a few steps behind. But then, for the first time, she noticed someone else was tracking him too. Anna. Turns out Anna had posted anonymously on one of the same forums Carmen followed, an old message board for victims of relationship fraud. She'd used a fake name, but Carmen pieced it together based on location and story details. It was subtle, but there. Anna had written that she believed her husband was alive. That he'd stolen from her. That he might be dangerous. And more importantly, she said she was going to draw him out. She didn't want justice through the system. She wanted the truth. She wanted a confession. She was setting a trap. But Carmen warned me, Darren didn't fall for traps. He made them. And if Anna thought she was the first to try, she wasn't. Carmen told me about another woman, Elise Carter. Same pattern. Same plan. Elise had started posting anonymously too, trying to lure Darren into a meeting by pretending to be someone new. Someone interested. She used a fake profile, fake name. For a while, it worked. Until Darren figured it out. And Elise vanished. The police never found a body. Just her burned-out car and a campsite with no footprints leading away. Carmen leaned closer, her voice low but steady. "I don't think he kills for fun," she said. "I think he kills when someone gets too close. When they know too much." My hands went ice cold. Because Anna knew too much. More than Elise, more than Tina. She had files, photos, transactions. And she'd already met him at that cottage. Alone. That's when Carmen handed me a flash drive of her own. "Watch this," she said. "Your daughter sent it to me 2 weeks ago." "Wait, Anna contacted Carmen?" Carmen nodded. Said Anna found her through one of those old posts. She asked for help, guidance, backup. The video on the flash drive wasn't long. Maybe 5 minutes. Anna was sitting on her bed, speaking directly into the camera. Her face was calm, but her eyes, they were filled with fire. Determination. She said if I was watching this, it meant something had gone wrong. She said she knew what Darren was, and she wasn't afraid. She said she was going to end it. Her last words in the video? "If I disappear, don't believe anything he says. He's been doing this for years. Find the cottage. Look beneath the floorboards." I dropped the flash drive. I couldn't breathe. Because now it wasn't just suspicion. It wasn't just fear. It was a mission. And if the police weren't going to act fast enough, Carmen and I were going to the cottage ourselves. We left just after midnight. No sleep. No second thoughts. Carmen packed her pistol, licensed, legal, and handed me a flashlight and a crowbar. She didn't even ask if I was ready. She just looked at me like she knew I already was. The drive was almost 2 hours through winding back roads, barely lit by the moon. Every tree looked like a shadow trying to step into the headlights. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept thinking, what if we're too late? What if she's not even there? But then Carmen spoke, calm as ever. She planned for this. She left 2 clues. She sent me the video. That means she knew what she was doing. We just have to finish it. We pulled up to the cottage just after 2 a.m. It looked abandoned, still, quiet, empty. But not in the peaceful way. In the staged way. Like someone wanted it to seem untouched. Carmen scanned the perimeter with her flashlight. I checked the door, unlocked. Inside, everything was dusty, still. A single wine glass sat on the kitchen counter. The couch cushions were slightly uneven. A duffel bag in the corner. It was Anna's. Same one she left home with. That's when it really hit me. She had been here. We searched every room, every drawer. No blood, no broken glass, no obvious signs of a struggle. Just the feeling of something being very, very wrong. And then, in the main room, Carmen tapped her boot on the hardwood floor. Thud. Again. Thud thud. She crouched down and felt along the seam between 2 floorboards near the fireplace. Pulled a multi-tool from her coat. Wedged it into the gap. Pry. Snap. Lift. Beneath the floorboard, darkness. And then, plastic. Carmen pulled out a heavy zippered bag. Inside were papers. A flash drive. A prepaid phone. A wallet. A second, smaller pouch, stuffed with USB sticks, a burner phone SIM card, and a spiral-bound notebook that looked like it had been soaked in sweat and tears. We opened the notebook. It was Anna's handwriting. Inside were journal entries. Maps. Notes on aliases. Bank accounts. Darren's movements. Rental addresses. Storage units. Passwords. Even security questions with his fake mother's maiden names. She'd compiled everything. This wasn't just a trap. It was a full takedown. Carmen flipped to the final page. It was a message, written in shaky pen. "If something happens to me, make this public. Don't trust him. Not the cops, not his stories. He lies with his whole body. Asterisk Anna." I sat down hard on the floor. Because this wasn't a woman running away. This was a woman who knew she might not make it out. Suddenly, Carmen froze. She pointed toward the fireplace. There, beneath the grate, was a second loose board. This one wasn't empty. We pried it up. Inside, another bag. Heavier. When we opened it, Carmen sucked in a breath. Inside was a driver's license, for Tina Holloway. A bloody scarf. 2 burner phones. And a man's wedding ring engraved with D and A, always. It was Darren's. He'd left it behind. Why? Because he didn't think anyone would ever look beneath the floor. But Anna had. And now, so had we. We left the cottage before sunrise, the air heavy with a silence that felt like it was holding its breath. The second bag, the one with Darren's ring and Tina's ID, we sealed in Carmen's trunk. Neither of us said a word the whole drive back. The weight of what we'd found sat between us like a third passenger, breathing down our necks. Anna had uncovered everything. And now we had proof Darren wasn't just a liar or a thief. He was something much worse. Tina Holloway hadn't vanished, she'd been erased. And Darren had left behind the tools to do it again. But as we neared my neighborhood, something felt wrong. Carmen's headlights swept across my street. And that's when I saw it. A car. Parked across from my house. Lights off. Engine running. Carmen slowed down immediately. I recognized the vehicle. Not the license plate, but the car. It was the same model Darren used to drive back when he and Anna were first married. Silver Subaru. Always spotless. Too clean. We didn't pull into the driveway. Carmen kept driving, circled the block once, then parked 3 houses down. We waited. Watched. The car didn't move. Carmen pulled out her phone and snapped a photo of the license plate. Then she turned to me and said the words I didn't want to hear but already knew were coming. He knows we were there. I felt like the air had been ripped out of the car. It all made sense now. How calm Darren had been when he showed up at my door. How easily he left when I mentioned calling the police. He wasn't afraid of being caught. He was watching. Always watching. Carmen and I stayed in the car for 15 minutes. Eventually, the silver Subaru eased away from the curb and disappeared down the street like it had never been there. We went straight to a hotel. Neither of us felt safe going home. I called Detective Carver, left a message, and emailed him every file we'd recovered, including photos of the contents from the floorboards, Anna's journal, and Tina Holloway's ID. Carmen stayed up watching the security cameras she'd hidden in her own car. And then, just after 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No caller ID. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, it buzzed again. Another voicemail. I opened it. It was only 3 words, spoken in a quiet, clipped tone I recognized immediately. Darren. She found out. That was it. No name. No threats. Just a statement. A confirmation. And it wasn't a confession. It was a warning. A reminder that he wasn't gone. That this wasn't over. That whatever Anna had found out, whatever she had been about to do, he'd stopped her. And now, he was circling back. The next morning, the police finally called. Detective Carver had reviewed everything we sent. And this time, his tone had changed. The voicemail. The documents. The blood-stained scarf. Tina's ID. Darren's ring. Anna's video. He said, "We're treating this as a high-level investigation now. And your daughter is officially classified as a missing person in connection with suspected foul play." They were getting a warrant to search the cottage. Carmen and I didn't wait. We drove to the precinct with every scrap of evidence we had, sat in that sterile room for 3 hours while officers combed through it all. Carver told us to stay put. But Carmen? She wasn't done yet. She had a tracker in her car. The one parked across from my house? She'd caught the plate the night before, and through a contact at a DMV records firm, she already had a hit. Registered to a Ray Dalton. Another alias. Another fake. But the address attached to the registration? It wasn't far. A storage unit complex 30 minutes outside town. We didn't wait. Maybe it was stupid. Maybe it was reckless. But I needed to know. We parked outside the complex just as the sun was rising. There were rows of identical beige units, all locked up, all silent. We didn't know which one was his, until Carmen pointed at a security camera mounted to the corner of a building. And the red light was blinking. Recording. Carmen grabbed her laptop, pulled up a portable signal sniffer, and found the device broadcasting nearby. She's not just resourceful, she's skilled. 5 minutes later, she was inside the feed. And what we saw chilled me to the bone. Inside one of the units, there was a bed. A desk. A wall of photos. And a whiteboard, covered in my daughter's name. Different handwriting. Dates. Times. Notes like, did she suspect? Who is she emailing? Find out who she is. He'd been watching her for months, stalking her, monitoring her, planning something. I couldn't move, couldn't think. Carmen called Carver immediately. Told him where we were, what we'd found. 20 minutes later, patrol cars surrounded the lot. They found the unit, cut the lock. Inside, they confirmed what we'd seen, tracking devices, a burner phone filled with GPS logs, receipts for surveillance equipment, multiple IDs, wigs, gloves, and tucked in the back corner, Anna's missing duffel bag. But no Anna. She wasn't there. She hadn't been there. But she had left something behind. A Polaroid. Slipped between the pages of her journal. A photo of her, alive, holding up a sign. I'm not dead. I'm not done. Keep going. And scrawled at the bottom, in her handwriting. He's more dangerous than you know. That was 3 days ago. The police are still combing through everything. Carmen's staying with me. The investigation is now federal. They believe Darren, or whatever his real name is, has crossed state lines, possibly even countries, leaving a trail of false identities and missing women. But now they have names. Now they have faces. Now they have proof. And Anna? Somewhere, she's still out there. She knew what she was getting into. She planned for this. She vanished on her terms. But I know my daughter. I know she's still fighting. And so am I. Final thoughts. I used to believe monsters hid in the shadows. Now I know they walk right through your front door. With clean shirts and perfect smiles. They marry your daughters and vanish without a trace. But sometimes, they underestimate who they're up against. They underestimated Anna. They underestimated me. We're not done. Not even close.